All right, so welcome to another episode of the Pan African Traders podcast. Today I am joined by Kojo Adum from Ghana, who is in the agribusiness space. And myself and Kojo have been on a few different clubhouse rooms together, and we just find that we kind of connect. We share a lot of the same thoughts about agriculture. We're about the same age. We're doing similar things with different crops. So I just thought it would be a good idea to have a conversation with him to talk about the agribusiness space in Ghana, just to get a different perspective. So welcome to the podcast, Kojo. How are you doing today?
Doing very well. Yes.
Awesome. So let's just get straight into it. You're in agriculture. How long have you been into? When did you decide to get into agribusiness? Have you always been in agribusiness?
No, I've not always been in agribusiness. I've been, I think, actively in agriculture since 2014, late 2014 till now. And I decided to jump in. After some years in the private sector, I was in mining a bit and real estate. And then I decided to jump into agriculture. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, what made you pivot to agriculture from mining and real estate and all those other things?
I thought of doing something that I was passionate about, and because I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I don't know whether a lot of people know that Zimbabwe has a very strong agricultural inclination. There are a lot of it used to be a farming nation until things went a bit south. But so growing up in Zimbabwe, I used to see a lot of big commercial farms. Farmers were the coolest people that I could see. Like, those were the people that I sort of that fascinated me, And so I think that seed was sown in quite young. So when I was tired of working, I would say working for people in a way, which is somebody who sort of likes things to go a certain way and have control somewhat over the things which I'm involved in. And I think working in the private sector, working with or working for people wasn't giving me that. So I was not really in my mojo. So I decided to quit and then do something which I was passionate about. Surprisingly, I think that when it was time, it just happened. Like, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. Sort of the right people came into my life at the right time. So I just pivoted to doing it. And here we are today, 7 years in. And I don't think I would have done too many things differently. And yeah.
Nice. That's really interesting, actually. Starting off in another African country in Zimbabwe and then moving to Ghana to start your agricultural journey, so to speak. You said there was some, the right people came into your life at that time. Were they like mentors, or who are those people?
So it was my first business partner. He had relocated to the northern part of the country to sort of begin life there. The southern part is expensive, and he was from the north. And I think getting a job after university and the cost of living in the southern part of the country is quite high. So he was in the north, brought up in the north, and then he just felt that he would come back. And so he'll go back home and then see what he can pick up there. So he went back there and he started small farming, vegetable farming, and he'll send me pictures once in a while, like whilst I was still in the real estate at the time. And then it was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. You should consider coming to join me so that we do this together. So I think, I don't know what he saw or why he even thought I even had interest in farming, because I think up until that time, everything was really in my head, or a feeling I had. I didn't really express that to anybody. So I'm sure growing up, if you ask anybody who probably grew up with me, they'll probably be surprised about a career path I've chosen now, because it's not something I didn't go around wearing farm hats or holding what you call planting tools. But so after a while, I was like, okay, I'll come and check out what you are doing. So I took a plane. I went to the north, and I saw what he was doing, and I just loved the landscape. I loved seeing mostly farmlands left and right, farmers all over the place. Everybody was just into agriculture in one way or the other. It just seemed like what I needed, or possibly I needed a long break from city life. I don't know, it was either those two things. So I came back, and then I gave myself a timeline that in 6 months, I should have raised some money, quit my job, and moved to the north. So I think I did something which was probably the craziest thing I've ever done before, which is I quit my job, and I went to live in a place that I had no family, and I had no prior experience in a sector, and I began my journey that way. Yeah.
Well, that's what the definition of a leap of faith. That's that's crazy. That's crazy. And you mentioned something about, you know, how a lot of your friends, the people that you grew up with, wouldn't associate with you with, you know, getting into agriculture.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads me into one of the questions I had in mind. What's the perception of people that are in agriculture in Ghana? I know that sometimes in Nigeria, not all people, but a lot of people look at it as kind of you know, it's just poor people that do farming, and you know, some parents quite discouraging of their kids getting into farming. They want you to do certain types of professions like, you know, lawyer, doctor, those kinds of things. So is it something similar in Ghana, or are people kind of open-minded?
No, people are not open-minded. I think it will be something which cuts across Africa. I think farming is still deemed as a very, very poor man's occupation, and it's because of how it's been, because of the people who are engaged in it are mostly rural folks. Everybody's trying to educate their kids to take up a career in corporate world, a banker, doctor, or a politician. And so farming is not sexy, and it's not especially for young people. And so the depictions, you know, from almost just like that lady said, you know, that, you know, what if you're a young person and you see the connotation of how farming and agriculture has been painted, it's not something which you'd want to get in. Obviously, we should know better than that, and we should truly look beyond these stereotypes, because stereotypes are just wrong. So yes, it's the same as it is in Nigeria and or in most of Africa. And I hope really, I didn't really set out to, I'll even say that it was Clubhouse that got me comfortable with talking about what I do, because I'm usually the kind of person who, you know, I'm sort of in my corner doing my own thing. But I've realized something, that it's important for people like me, people like you, and people who look like us to speak and to get into agriculture, and to encourage people, even not by telling them to get into agriculture, but to tell them that young people can get into agriculture and make a living off it, you know, in the different parts of the value chain. It can be something which can, which ultimately is a priority, because we'll all go hungry if the generation of current farmers die off and we do not take over the mantle from them. It's important for us to show that farming can be done in a sophisticated, efficient way that has nothing to do with the primitive ways that have been depicted for a very long time. So I think that yes, the more awareness, the more people like us talk about agriculture, the more people are likely to want to also engage in it and change the narrative. Yeah,
I 100% agree with you. And like you said, we do need, younger people. We need, and also another thing is we need to bring our knowledge of, the current technology today, our exposure to the internet, to Clubhouse, to other platforms, and sort of integrate that with the existing agriculture going on in the continent, because we can merge the old with the new and, create something really special there. So I 100% agree with you. And yeah, so that kind of leads me on to, what you're actually doing right now, right? I think, on one of the Clubhouse rooms, we were talking about what you're actually growing. So can you tell us a little bit more about what crops you decided to get into, and some of your failures and your successes, etc., etc.?
Okay, so I'm currently actively into the aggregation, production / cultivation and processing of chilies, red chilies, into dried form. For now, we supply that to some processing facilities locally that turn it into other derivatives, which is powdered, sauce, etc. So we are like the chili people. I'm the hot pepper person. I grow chili specifically, even other varieties of hot pepper, but I focus on into the commercial production of cassava for some facilities also that turn it into ethanol and starch. And I produce tree seedlings on a commercial scale for Forestry Commission for their agroforestry or their afforestation initiatives that happen usually on an annual basis. So those are the primary crops that I'm into. In terms of failures, I think now I've approached agric from a different perspective, which is heavily irrigated. I'm always like, if I don't have irrigation set up, I'm not growing, because for the past years I've been doing it, it was heavily reliant on the rain. And because of the erratic climatic conditions that we've been experiencing now, if you are trying to do agric on the scale that I am doing it, or the scale that I've come to do it, you cannot rely on the rain. You definitely have to make provision for irrigation, as expensive as it is. So some of the heartbreaks have been expecting rains to come and rains not showing up, growing crops, and then with the anticipation of getting a good market price for it. And then when the crops are ready to harvest, they come and say there's a glut in the system. So what we're going to buy from you for about $100 per sack, or per like $5, and you have to dispose of them within a short period of time. So you're getting bullied by the market people, you're getting bullied by the middlemen, you're getting no support. So you're burning cash, into, and you're not getting it back. So the experiences have been basically from the point of bad market to climate disaster to also not knowing some good agronomic practices to observe. The lessons have been to make sure that you you reverse engineer everything. You get the market and you produce for it. You consult agronomists. You be willing to pay for experts. You reach out to as many experts in the field. You aggregate the information. You try and you follow through with the activities that need to be followed through with. You consider value addition. Sometimes you don't have to be into the production, but you can be into the aggregation, and you can be into the marketing. You understand? So you back channel, and then you just aggregate. Somebody produces, you aggregate, you connect to markets, you connect to people who need the processing facilities, etc., etc. So then those are sort of some of the lessons that I have learned. So now I'm always like, okay, value addition. my chilies this year. I'm hoping to add another step in the value chain by not even supplying my processors, but actually processing it further into powdered and then other forms to hopefully by next year. So it's something which actively you should look at adding, which is value addition to. Sometimes if it's just a single step, then you work on that, then you take a step after that. So that's some of the lessons which come across with my few years in agric. Yeah.
That's amazing, and that's a lot of wisdom sort of condensed into a couple of minutes. So I honestly appreciate that. One of the things you touched on was the irrigation. It's something that's not really, people don't really think of when they talk about agribusiness.
Yeah.
So in terms of irrigation, do you use any special kind of irrigation like drip irrigation, solar powered irrigation, etc.?
So I use drip irrigation. So we pump our water into an overhead tank and it's distributed drip by drip by drip, like the name suggests, to the crops. Okay. Like the name suggests, the crop to the crops. Hello, are you there?
I'm here. I just had to move to a different position, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, so we use drip irrigation primarily. So it drips the system of pumping water to an overhead tank, and then the water is distributed evenly amongst the crops on the field. That's what we primarily use. That's what we have experienced is cost effective. It's very, very, doesn't cause too much diseases. It doesn't cause pests to infect your sites. It's actually the best irrigation you can get. It's just expensive, but if you can, it's an alternative to go for. So in terms of irrigation, that's what we are looking at. Adding solar to our solar will be more of just to pump the water into the overhead tanks. That's something which we are looking actively as incorporating into our model this year. So irrigation definitely something which should be considered if you want to minimize the unpredictability of very predictable venture. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Keep going.
Okay, so that's what I have to add on irrigation. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very useful. And a lot of people think that getting into the agribusiness space is just, you just put some stuff in the ground, the rain pours, the sun shines, and it grows. But actually, it's actually pretty difficult, and there's a lot of different bits and pieces you have to be aware of, from the weather, like you said, the weather, irrigation, the market, the middlemen. Like there's so many different things, and it's not
so many.
Yeah, and it's not like it's a business. It's like any other business. There are challenges. This is not the easiest business to get into, and so this is one thing that I like to tell people when they want to get into the agribusiness space, that it's not an overnight success. There's going to be a lot of things you're gonna learn, but you reach out to people that have been in the space so you can learn from other people's mistakes and be like you said, be willing to pay agronomists, be willing to pay certain people that would give you that extra advice.
I'll give you an experience. Let me just add this little to one of the experiences we had was something even as minute or as what people would not consider important. It's just even just the variety you grow and where you grow it. There are a lot of tests that need to be done, like maybe the soil test to know what the nutrient composition of the soil is, so that you actually know what kind of nutrients to give it. Some needed, some not needed. You can't use the same fertilizer regimen for every part of every soil across every geographic location. Also, the seed you use, seeds perform differently in different places. So we had a seed that we used that did not fruit at all, even though we did what we had to do, which is we irrigated, we gave it fertilizer, we did our disease control, our pest control, and then there were two varieties we planted. One was a hybrid, one was a regular. The hybrid performed fantastically. The regular variety performed flopped, absolute flop. So just something as simple as just even the seed choice in the seed in the geographic location can be the difference between a successful crop season to a non-successful crop season. So a lot of times, we like to learn painfully, but I think, in my opinion, if I were to go or if I would want to enter into a different crop from what I'm producing now, which is if I all of a sudden want to jump into okra or garden eggs or something, the best way is actually, I'll probably collaborate with a farmer that's already been doing it for a while and see how I can support them to scale up in a way that's mutually beneficial, as opposed to try and take the mantra, even if maybe it's just a temporal thing, so that you could learn as much from their operations as possible and go and do your own thing. That should be what is considered, and that's what I would definitely do differently if given an opportunity again like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the smartest way to do it. It's not a quick fix. A lot of things you're just not going to be prepared for. And so by actually spending time with someone that has experience. And then another thing, like you mentioned, the geography, like when I got into agribusiness, I didn't even know that, the same, crop planted in the northern region of one country or in the western region of the same country, it's a different product. It can taste different. It can come out different. And so there's all these little things you have to learn. And like you said, try and go under someone that's actually been in that specific crop, knows what they're talking about, and they can walk you through it. One thing that I wanted to touch on as well is one of the discussions we were having on Clubhouse about the challenges that some of the farmers, the smallholder farmers have. We spoke a little bit about, working with cooperatives, and, there was a lot of chat about, drone technology, blockchain, a lot of these fancy technologies, artificial intelligence. But, a lot of the time I was saying, which what you agreed with, and, you can expand on it. I was saying, look, sometimes these people just need mechanized farming. They might just need a thresher. They might just need a tractor. They might just need just some machinery to help them operate more efficiently. So, do you want to touch on that about the expectations of these new technologies and the realities on ground?
Yes. So I think that fortunately or unfortunately, ag tech, not even it's difficult to say, but when you even say ag tech, usually it actually doesn't have to do with agricultural mechanization, which if it did, then probably we'll be having a different conversation. Ag tech is basically using solutions that the first world has adopted to operate more efficiently in a society whereby the barest minimum and procedures of agriculture is still in a place whereby we cannot effectively utilize these technologies. I think that there's a lot of challenges that different farmers farming different crops in different geographies face. And I think that one of the, if you go across and you find out, you see that access to things like mechanization services for land preparation, just motorized sprayers, and things which will just elevate their level of production 1 or 2 steps are lacking. It's difficult to see how ag tech, which is things like drone spraying and then artificial intelligence and things like that, would be of immediate significant help, because these are subsistence farmers we are talking about. They are farming to live, and complicating their already complicated lives is an unfair thing to do, as much as no matter how much you think what you're doing is helping them. I would say that if the mode of of incorporating your technology is your business model, then it should be more about you have a group of outgrowers for which you are supporting in a certain way, and then you are utilizing this technology to help them do what they are doing more efficiently after providing them with their various minimum needs, which is with the input, with maybe the knapsack sprayer and things like that, and seeing and telling them and letting them understand how you could even be, or they could even be more efficient if you give them these services. If that's not done, I think it's not something which is to the average farmer is of any help. So for us like this, we are doing, we have an outgrower scheme with our chilies. This year, we are looking at supporting 100+ farmers, depending on how things go. And if this increases, and if, let's say, based on tests and results from how we operate or things like that, we want to maybe incorporate a way of, okay, getting a drone to spray the farmers or to spray the farms of each farmer, then that would make sense, because I'm sort of already providing them with an ecosystem that benefits them. I'm providing them with markets, I'm providing them with input seeds, things like that. And then I think that I can efficiently, what do you call it? Or they can efficiently utilize the chemicals that I'm giving them by incorporating my drone technology. That can be a business model that works. So it needs to be looked at like, you can't use the same glove to fit every farmer. I don't want to completely discredit the importance of or the efficiency of how agricultural technology like drones and artificial intelligence in detecting diseases and things can be. I just think that they need to be rolled out in a way that is pragmatic and also very, very, very realistic for our climate, and understand that not everything nice and shiny needs to be used at a particular time. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's not to say that these types of technologies are not necessary, but it's about understanding the customer and what they actually need on the ground. Because, like I said, if helping them have a tractor or lease a tractor is going to reduce their plowing time from a month to like a couple of days, that might be more important than giving them Bitcoin wallets and all these things. So I honestly understand the perspective, and this is something that I found interesting that we both agreed on.
I think I didn't even make in my submission. I'll quickly even add that mechanization services are very, very lacking. Tractors, that has been the cry for my outgrower scheme from as much as last year rather. And it's true, because the tractors are just not enough. In the parts of farming where primarily they grow grains, cashew, I said maize, soya beans, and sorghum and things like that, they do not have enough agricultural machinery that can do these crops. They don't have enough threshers that can help them effectively in the post-harvest phase of things. So it is heartening when we feel like maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars are being pumped into places in the value chain or in the sector that are not going to bring immediate benefits to those who need it the most. So I think definitely that before there should be some on-ground research. It's easy to try and solve the world's problems from Silicon Valley, but sometimes looking at the problems on the ground through a Google map or a Google satellite image is not enough to really bring the change that's needed on the ground. Go on the ground, meet with the people who are on the ground, and let them tell you what their challenges are, and try and I'll keep saying reverse engineer the solution from from that angle. So that's what I wanted to add.
That's brilliant. That's perfectly said. And yeah, you just gotta really understand what's going on the ground. There can't be that disconnect. Otherwise, we're just going to be bringing up solutions that don't really solve particular problems. So I completely agree with that. And yeah, just a couple more questions before we round things up. You said you do chilies and cassava. So I mean, are you growing these in different parts of Ghana? Like,
Yeah.
and how easy is it to manage two different crops?
Yeah, so chilies in the Brown Hafo region, cassava is in the Volta region. The Brown Hafo region is the mid-belt towards the northern part of the country. Then the country has about 12 months to maturity, needs very little attention. You have the times you're supposed to weed, the times, yeah, it's quite a simple crop. My encouragement to everybody watching this, just go and grow cassava. As your starting crop in agriculture, it's a simple crop, so it doesn't require too much supervision. You can plant it and forget about it after you've done what you need to do. Chili is the one that's a bit more tricky. It requires a lot of attention, requires a lot of technicalities, a lot of money, but at the same time too, it's a very high value crop. So if you do all the things that you need to do, you would definitely be rewarded greatly. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That certain crops are just a lot easier for beginners, so you can get your feet wet with the cassava,
Yeah.
and then when you want to get complicated, you can do more of the perishable
the perishable crops. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice. And yeah, I guess my last comments before we end this up, because this has been very information dense. So I hope people that watch this actually appreciate all this knowledge that you're dropping. But what would you say to the younger people to try and get them encouraged to get into agribusiness? Because like you said, there's a stigma attached to agribusiness in Africa. So what would you say to younger people your age, to get them excited about getting into this industry?
I'll tell them that that
But
I think that
be realistic as well, though. Don't if it's difficult, also just say that.
I'll tell them that almost like when there's a call to war, they pick up every young person with able arms is called to go and fight and defend their country. They should treat it with the same urgency, because if they want to be all the depictions of disaster and famine and everything that we see in movies, scarcity of food can become a reality if more young people do not enter into agriculture. You understand? That everything can't be computers, everything can't be tech, though an argument can be made about robots that farm and feed us. But do we really want to put our hopes on something which probably has a 50 or 60 years away from chance of coming to reality? It's an immediate crisis. We need the average age of a farmer is above 60 years. And it means that when they die, there's going to be a huge shortfall of food for us to eat. So it's a very, very important thing. They need to treat it not just as and something which they can decide to do, but something which is needed. It's almost like something which needs to be mandatory, for everybody to be involved in the agribusiness sphere in one way or the other, because mankind literally its lives depend on it. I'm not trying to be like really trying to paint a dark picture, but it is that bad. In Africa specifically, if we do not find a way of getting more young people to grow, if we do not find a way of supporting those who are already in agribusiness, the young ones to be able to have farms that match the farms that we have in Europe and in America, it's going to be very, very bad for us all. So you go into agriculture not because, it's something fancy or something that is flavor of the month occupation, but go into it because it's something which is needed, like becoming a doctor, or becoming a teacher. It's a priority for us all, and for mankind really. And so that's my advice. It's not easy, but I don't think anything is really. I think everything has a set of challenges and a set of solutions. So that's my little advice to them.
That's a brilliant, roundup, because, sometimes people promote agriculture as this new sexy thing, but, I like your approach. It's very pragmatic, it's very real. And it's just saying, look, we survive on food, right? We need people to keep growing it. We can't be over reliant on importing our food from outside of Africa. And so just in the same way, we need teachers, we need doctors, we need farmers as well. So thank you very much for, being a guest on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'm sure our audience would enjoy this episode as well, because you definitely dropped a lot of gems in here. So yeah, thank you very much, Kojo, and enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll leave you to it.
No problem. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.